Latest and greatest here on the shores of Lake Erie. Not the latest breaking news, but Myles Garrett signed a gargantuan deal, making him the highest paid player in NFL history outside of the quarterback position. Since we last talked, when the focus was what are we going to do about Myles? He did Radio Row at the Super Bowl. He's leaving. So is Nick Chubb. Uh, Things have changed. So 30-second takes tonight. What do you think about Myles Garrett? What do you think about the deal? How do you feel about the team now? Eric, I introduced it. Noah's hosting. Why don't you get us started?
Yeah, throw that timer up there. I'll be honest, I was a little excited that the deal got done. That's what my heart says. My head says that it was a stupid deal. We're overpaying for a guy that has not brought us any more wins. Remind you that he was on the 0-16 season. I hope that means that they're going to push towards greatness, that they're going to bring in guys and try to push for a playoff run and make something happen. But I'm just not super optimistic. So at the end of the day, it's just a giant waste of money.
All right. I was going to go next, but Noah's going to disagree. So why don't we get right into that? Give yourself 30 seconds, Noah, and tell us why you disagree with Eric.
Because he's the best player on the defensive end of football in the league right now. Calling him a waste of money is a disgrace as a fan of this team to call him that. I understand where you're coming from. You're talking about an 0-16 Myles Garrett. He was a rookie that year. Yes, he isn't a quarterback and doesn't make the game-changing plays that you understand that a quarterback does. But it's also Myles freaking Garrett, man. He deserves every penny of it, and I'm so glad he's back in the orange and brown, and we don't have to worry. Eric muted me.
Oh, yeah. He got me in last week. I was ready. Hard disagree, man.
I think it's good that we set the cameras up this way because Noah's on one extreme, Eric's on the other. I'm in the middle. Two things can be true at once, and they are tonight. Does Myles Garrett deserve it? Yes. Is he worth the money? I think so. Is he one of the best, if not the best defender in the NFL? True. Has my win prediction for the Cleveland Browns next year changed because we have him instead of lost him? No. I think it's the same. I think you pay defensive players like Myles so that when you're in the AFC Championship, you got to get Patrick Mahomes on 3rd and 8. He comes off the edge and gets him. I don't think it's going to make a 3-win football team, a 7-win football team, but all things considered, with the way things have been going lately, I am glad that he's back in the orange and brown. Better than a Steeler for sure.
So what does that do for us, though, gentlemen? If the goal is to win football games, and we're saying, Noah constantly saying, no, they need to rebuild. This is not a win now situation. What's the point? You're leveraging the future now for a player that's not helping you.
Well, my mindset with this whole thing is that he is going to move forward and they're going to move in a direction where they're back in a win now window. If you trade Myles Garrett, yes, you blow it up and you rebuild. But now that he's re-signed and he's here until 2030, your goal should be winning every year. And I think that's where the team's moving. We haven't seen those moves and those pieces and those parts fall into place yet. We're in the first real official day of free agency in terms of the new league year starting and all that. But I think there's still something coming that hooked Myles back in. Yes, 40 million big ones is a part of that, a huge part of that. But there's no way a guy goes and trashes a franchise, goes and says all that he has said about wanting to win now, and there isn't some sort of plan or some sort of contingency thought process, at least, for this team to move in a direction to win, whether that be a veteran quarterback that we aren't really thinking about right now, or they sold him on a dream of Shador or Cam Ward. I don't know what it is.
I think they sold him a dump truck full of money. Let's say that in my current job that I'm dissatisfied and I want to leave. I'm not saying that's the case, but let's pretend that's the case. And if my boss tomorrow said, hey, we're going to double your salary, I'm going to turn right around and be like, I love it there. This is great. This is the most fantastic thing of all time. To say that it's not about the money, I think, is just naive. We don't know why Garrett changed his mind, but I don't think front office management saying, Shador Sanders is going to lead you to the promised land. We all know, every single one of us knows, Myles Garrett is not going to win a Super Bowl with the Cleveland Browns.
But
Mark
why do you
that
think
in stone?
why do you think it's naive to think that there's more involved here than money? Because Myles Garrett in the past has taken a lesser paycheck to move forward and get a roster in his mind that was going to win. He makes choices that are ingrained in winning and going forth about winning.
Okay, I'll give you 2 reasons.
Okay.
He went around and gave interviews saying, I want to contend. I want to go chase and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Then he took the biggest contract outside of a quarterback for this organization.
Do you understand how they work this cap though? Deshaun Watson, half of his money doesn't count against the cap. How they manipulate the cap, they could pay you $1 billion. Newsflash.
Why are you talking about the cap? I'm not talking about the cap. I'm talking about Myles Garrett saying that he wanted to win a championship. We all know we're deluding ourselves if we're pretending that that's going to happen in Cleveland. So for you to say that he came back because he thinks he's going to win more here is insane.
I don't think he necessarily thinks that he's going to win more here, Eric. I think
Then it's about the money.
No, it's not. I think it's about the money and a plan that he has more faith in than whatever the hell they told him at the end of week 18. John, I want to let you talk for a second.
No, I'm enjoying the back and forth. I think you guys are both arguing good points, but we're forgetting some of the key criteria, right? Everything's not black and white. There's a gray area. So saying it's not about the money and then getting more than anyone has ever gotten can make it about the money. The other thing that is true is we're capitalists and we're Americans and we want to make money. So I don't think that we should shame a guy for wanting to get rich because we all want to get rich at the end of the day.
I don't disagree. I'm not saying you
the
should shame
overwhelming
the guy.
majority, but the one thing that there's a piece of this too that I think you guys are missing out on the argument, and that's sentimental value. Clearly being in Cleveland for his entire career meant something to Myles. He got the chance to stay. That's not contending necessarily. But it's important. From the fan side, I just got done ragging on ownership because Nick Chubb meant like the signature of the end of an era when we thought Myles was leaving. Having one of the fan favorites who's also an all-pro and a first ballot Hall of Famer choose to stay here, even if it was for a boatload of cash, I think is also a big deal. I also disagree with the certainty of, I can guarantee you we all know we're delusional if you think he'll ever win a Super Bowl with the Browns. I wouldn't bet a mortgage payment on it. I wouldn't bet $100 on it. But you don't know that they can't win with the Browns. They were closer than we would have thought a few years ago. I mean, we think it because they have no history of showing it, but I would have told you, Darius Garland's never going to win a title with the Cavs with the roster 4 years ago, and now we got the best team in basketball. A lot can happen over the course of a contract.
I wouldn't have said that.
At this time last year, do you think the Commanders – would you have said the Commanders were worth competing? Did you think the Commanders were going to the NFC Championship?
Of course not.
The answer is no, and that we don't know what that answer is because whether we draft a quarterback at 2, 33, 97, wherever it is,
do you know how close they were to a Super Bowl? As close as the Cleveland Browns were, which is not at all.
We're talking 1 year, Eric. You're looking at it too micro.
No, I'm not. I'm looking at an organization that has been dysfunctional top to bottom since I've been alive.
That's not complete. Yes, it's completely true. But
that is accurate.
Not this front office. This front office has made the playoffs. This front office has done good things.
This front office has traded for Deshaun Watson.
You're both right, though, because you know who else has had a dysfunctional franchise since you've been alive? Washington. And they were in the NFC Championship.
And they got a new owner, and that's made a big difference.
We got a new owner. Just wasn't last year.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And he's a Jerry Jones wannabe.